All right, well, welcome everybody. We've got 39 so far. I'm sure some more are coming in. Had a couple hundred register, but most people end up watching the recording anyway. What I want to do today is I'm on here alone. Gil's not on with me this time because I want to answer some questions about the files that I'm including in Gil's add-on. And I'm going to take you through some of them and explain what I'm trying to do or what I'm giving you, just to make it easy to prospect. And I'm going to incorporate my process with Thinkorswim. Now, since the market's closed, I'm just going to do a final update on the intraday. And then I'm going to turn off the intraday so it doesn't affect the recording and so on. Just takes about 30 seconds to do this manual update. Okay, that's it. And then I'll go on and select the intraday options, and I'll just switch this to manual since I'm totally updated. Now, a couple more things I want to do very quickly is I added some of my start groups for Ron Brown. I put them in here, and I'm going to suggest you may want to do that too. And the reason for that is this is a group of indexes from HGSI, and I think Gil's files need these also if you want to do a total analysis of the market. So I'm going to go in here to the major indexes and sectors, and I'm going to go to rebuild the indexes in the group. And the reason I do this, and I can do this throughout the day, or you can do this throughout the day, what it does is it gives me a reading on what the market is doing. And you can see that I have the sectors in here and also the major indexes. I'm using a 7-year-old computer to do this. It's not a very fast computer, but you can see even with it, it doesn't take that long. Now I've switched back to this computer to do these webinars and recordings because I'm using a screen resolution that produces a lot better videos in the end. We don't get as much information on the screen, but when the recordings come out, they're much better. Okay, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna come back to this right now, or come back to this in a minute. What I want to point out right now is that let me bring up the correct page here. This is the add-on page, which you can locate through your main menu. If you go to the help menu and then just go to add-ons, it brings this page up. And Gil's files have been updated since last week, and I'm going to point out what's changed. But if you don't have these files yet, or even if you do, I want you to go in and I want you to update them. So just click on this, click on download zip file, and remember that it's going to probably give you this message that it can't be downloaded. Just go here and select keep anyway, and then save as. They're protecting from zip files which are contaminated. Also, I want you to go ahead and download mine. These are the files of mine that I'm going to be showing today. I think if you just use Gil's files and my limited files, it'll give you an opportunity for better analysis of the market, especially the market side of it. Also, my market analysis user groups, if you want all of them, these are all updated too. That's the long list of user groups. A lot of you don't need them, but they're there if you want them. Okay, let's move on here. I want to do one more thing since the market's closed. By the way, this is a presentation that really should be done during market hours. because of the real-time or nearly real-time information that is provided by Thinkorswim and HGSI. What I'm going to do here, a couple more things, and I do this often during the day. I click on industries and I rebuild the indexes in the groups. And what this does is it shows us exactly where the strength is in the industry groups. Once again, it takes very little time, even on this old, slow computer. Slow by today's standards. When I bought it, it of course, was the state of the art. But you know how quickly these change in the world of computers. Now, on my new computer, that would have been done much faster. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to rebuild the user smart groups. These are the smart groups down here that I've added to Gil's files. So everything's going to be up to date. Like I said, this is something that really should be done, this presentation during the market hours, but I know a lot of people don't like to do that, so I skipped that. Now I'm going to go back down here where I started to begin with. This is my starter market analysis user group, which I installed on here. You don't have to do this, but I think it's a good idea. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click through to the warehouse view. And these are some of my, if you look here, Ron's daily prospecting scans. These are just the starter scans, but what I'm looking for here are the ones for HGSI analysis. And I'm going to click on number 3, because what it does by rebuilding those files, it tells me where the market finished today. And if you look here, you can see that this was another good day for the semiconductors, 3.29 to 1 advancers over decliners. Healthcare, the sector was strong again, 2.31, Dow, 2 to 1. But then when we get down below this, the index of all of these indexes were less than 1 to 1. They were below, they were negative for the day. So the energy index was hit hard today. Why? Because oil prices were going down. So you can, like I said, you can do this anytime during the day and you can get a feel for what the market's doing. Now let's go up to the industries. I'm going to click through to this same warehouse view. And this gives me an insight into where the strength was by using the number 3 view in my files. It shows me that the home builders were the strongest, 24 to 1, followed by renewable energy, project development, then rail freight, and then renewable energy. Renewable stocks have been doing very well lately, but this gives us great insight that you don't really get in any other program. Or if you do, I don't know about it, but I know it's all here. Now, let's say that something catches my eye here. Let's go into renewables, and I'm just going to change to the industry group. And this is still the same view, and this is why I want you to put my views in here too. I can go down here to number 6, and it shows me which of these stocks in the renewables were up today. And you can see that this column here is all green. So what if I want to take a look at some of these? Now I'm going to take you back to last week's webinar, if you were with us, when I really kind of introduced these columns in this view. These columns represent the days since the 3 crossed the 6 and the days since the volume point of control turned positive or negative. These are the positive columns. These are the negative columns. And you can see that TPIC 11 days ago, it crossed over. So it was up another 17.08% today. Let's just take a look at it. And I'm going to bring it up. Now, this is Gil's chart, the one that's included with Gil's. And here is where the crossover occurred back here. crossover occurred on with an effort to rise VPA flag. In this filter, I allow a 2-day window, because if you miss the first day, it's going to show up the second day too. So it crossed over. We had a pullback, but it didn't pull back enough for the 3 to cross down through the 6. Then we had a gap up, sold into this short-term profit taking, but notice how the 3 has stayed above the 6 this whole time. And if you use the 3 and 6 as a stop out point, this trade would have still been good. And look, what was it up today? Another, what did I say? 17%. And it also has an effort to rise and a strength seen returning after a 1-day downtrend. So I'm using these charts more and more for my analysis because it gives me a quick visual reference of where the accumulation started and where the crossover started. Now, this was a bad signal here, but you know, stocks, whenever you take a trade, it's always random once you put the trade on. You try to put the odds in your favor, but there's no guarantee. Now, these light blue lines, as I pointed out last week, they're accumulation bars, but there's no crossover bar until down here. And that looked like it would be a good trade. But putting it in perspective, these moving averages, let me make this full screen, the 200, the 100, the 50, and the 18, these were all down. And the 3 did go above the 6, but the other moving averages were down. And you can see it in these histograms. That means you're fighting the tide here. And more than likely, it's just going to be a counter trend rally. So this one worked out here beautifully, didn't it? Then it came down. This is the one I'm talking about right here. It did not work out, but this was a good trade here. These are all accumulation bars and a bad trade. And then it came down here. Accumulation 1 day. What do we have here in addition to this? We have a volume pocket pivot with an effort to rise. That is a strong signal. So when I'm looking at this, I'm just going to sort on this. This would be the oldest signal, advanced energy, 21 days ago. And you can see what a beautiful signal that was. Here's accumulation with a stopping volume on VPA, moved up. Here's a test, was flat, went from expansion to contraction to expansion, a little bit of contraction, then an effort to rise, and it's been moving up. Today, there was some profit taking on this stock, but it's the oldest stock. Now, using this same scorecard, let's sort it this way. And this tells me that Dago New Energy was negative on the 3 days down. It turned negative 3 days ago. The 0 is always a crossover day. Same thing for the volume point of control. But today it's up 6.89%. So let's take a look at it. So where did it turn negative? 2 days ago. Right here, you can see that it turned negative, and today it turned positive, and the volume point of control also turned positive. Now, since this group is strong today, I would consider this a pretty good setup here. Why? Because it held the 50-day exponential moving average, that light blue line. This was a shakeout yesterday on heavy volume, but notice the lower wick here. There are buyers by the end of the day. Let's see if I can zoom on this a little bit here. Whoops, I went too far. Sorry about that. And so there were some buyers there, even though it was heavy volume. And it held the 50-day. And today, it started out low, and it closed near or at the high of the day. Now I'm going to drop down to the next chart on Gil's charts, and you can see that the volume was lower today than normal, but the intraday range closed at 97.36%. I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to just show you how I use this in conjunction with Thinkorswim. On either the designer or the warehouse, you can copy your symbols to the clipboard to a comma-separated list. And then I'm going to bring up Thinkorswim. And I just have a watch list here, which I switch out through the day. I just click on it, select Edit Watch List, import, paste symbols from the list, and replace the current symbols, and save it. Now, these are all of the renewable stocks in here. So I have a daily range here. Let's just take a look at ENS. And you can see that ENS with this chart, and this is the identical chart, except I don't have the crossovers marked on the Thinkorswim chart. But here is where the crossover occurred on this stock, and it didn't go back down. And look, where's it gone? It's gone from, let's say it was purchased on this day, $59.52. It's up about $10. So let's go back quickly. What's the symbol? ENS. And there's a signal right there. I just want to show it to you on this chart. I also have in my charts here, here's the green version of it. I prefer to work with the green version of it. Gil likes blue. Those are Gil's colors, blue and red. I just prefer to work with the green. But you can see the accumulation on this stock happening down here. These VPA signals are invaluable when you're starting to prospect. This is a low volume test. Here's a confirmation of the low volume test with strength seen returning after a downtrend. Excuse me, on a bar closing near the high. After the test confirms strength. So this bar confirmed this bar, and then the crossover day happened the next day. There was no pocket pivot here, low volume, but it crossed over after these two VPA flags stayed, the 3 stayed above the 6. And what we have here, we had a low volume test. If you look at this and then look at this and where this closed in the daily range, that's why we have a low volume test. This is a great signal. Tom Williams, I don't know if you know who Tom Williams is. He's founded Trade Guider Systems, which is a VSA program, which I have, but I obviously don't use it. He said, always pay attention to these low volume test signals, because what does it tell you? It tells you that there is very low selling pressure and it closed in the upper range. So that means as soon as it sold off, or during the day when it sold off, buyers were coming in to support it, and it hasn't looked back. But these are the best signals down here. This signal here was not a good signal, but if you look up here, this is why I put the group line in the chart. This tells you what was happening with the renewable energy equipment index on this day. Group was strong, but the group was going down here. And that's when this went down too. Now see, the group started up. This started it. You need to pay attention to these groups. This chart may seem like it has a lot going on. It does have a lot going on, but it's really helpful. It's good stuff. Okay, I want to go in here and show you some other things. I'll just stay with this chart. The way I have this set up is I have a weekly chart. Oh, here, let's do it this way. I have 4 charts side by side. This is a weekly, this is a 6-month daily, this is a 3-month daily, and this is a 78-minute chart. The 78-minute chart is there's 6.5 hours in a trading day, so that gives you 5 bars for the trading day. 5 daily bars gives you a week. 5 gives you a week. Yeah, that's right. I don't have a monthly chart in here. So this is these 5 bars represent 1 daily bar. 5 daily bars represent a weekly bar. Sometimes I'll stick a monthly chart in there just to see what's going on. Let me maximize this cell though. So here is today. This is the beginning of today, and here's the end of today. Now, if you like to see these, and I usually have this turned on under equities, you can show extended hour trading and you can see what happened pre-market. And then this is what happened throughout the day. Now, you can use 5-minute charts if you want to, but I like to use these longer term charts because it gives me a feel for what happens over a 78-minute period. Not nearly as frenetic as looking at well, this is a pretty tight 5-minute chart. A lot of them are not this tight, but I just prefer to use these. And then if I look at a daily chart here and it's starting to move up, I want to see how much support and what happens on each of these candles. I can see that it after this bar right here. Let me get rid of these so we can equities. I'm going to get rid of the extended hours trading. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars. So the 78-minute bars represent these 5 bars. What happened here, it probably opened here, and then turned around and closed near the high. What does that tell you? It tells you that this stock is being supported on that bar. This one opened here, and it went up toward the top, a little bit of selling, and then it gapped down here in this hour, but buyers came in. So it was getting strong support throughout most of the day. Here's a little pullback here, but what happened at the end of the day? Buyers came in and took it up those last 78 minutes. So it gives us, by looking at the intraday and combining the list from HGSI, I can quickly bring this list into HGSI, do my screening in HGSI, and then look for my real-time analysis in Thinkorswim. And if I want to make a trade, it's all right here in front of me. I can just go to the trade tab, or you can click on trade up here. Or if I want to look to see if there are options, if I want to do a spread or sell premium or something, it's all right in here. But getting back to what's happening in HGSI is where the real strength comes from. Now, I did a top down there, just going into here, but I want to show you some other things. I'm going to go to all securities. I'm going to all securities by hitting my Control M. And then I'm going to go into Gil's. And I want to show you what's going on here. Now, these are all his old scans, or my old scans that I made up for him. The undercut and rally, I made all these, but Gil inspired me to do this. He didn't inspire me the way I did it because he didn't really know how I was going to put these together. But I give him credit for giving me the idea of how I wanted to do it. When I first built this, I just did it with VPA flags, but I thought to myself, I'm missing too many signals that way. So I thought I would put bullish candles in here also. And I'll just show you the filter quickly, and you can see that it's complicated. There's, if any of these VPA flags occur, or if any of these bullish candles appear, these are all or statements. So it just takes one of them. Then the securities will pass through this screen. Now I'm in all securities right now, and these were stocks. This is the entire database is what I'm trying to say. These stocks pulled back the 3 below the 6, and here is the intraday as of today. So if I sort on raw combo, this tells me quickly which stocks pulled back yesterday, but you can see that they're negative here, both on the days down and for the 3 and the 6 and the VPOT, but it's up $10. I'm sorry, 10.81% today. And this is a biotech stock, so let's bring it up. Yeah, it's not a cheap stock, is it? But it's a biotech stock. What do you expect with biotech stocks? You expect volatility. And this is what we're seeing here. But the point is, the signals are good. Here is a pocket pivot followed by another pocket pivot on this day. So let's just look at another stock. Now here is this is another stock. Let's look at the fundamentals here. Negative but improving earnings. See, these last 2 quarters were positive, and the next quarter is expected to be positive too. So improving earnings, and the group is moving up. And here's an accumulation bar. Remember, I was looking for the white candle, and then here's a crossover with a VPA flag. This looks like a decent setup, but if you look to the left, there's a lot of resistance too. So you need to be aware of that. This is a much safer entry down here, but of course, it's still in a downtrend. There's always a trade-off. You're fighting the trend here. But there were what, 1, 2, 3, 4 accumulation days here. Then the crossover had a nice run, pullback here, accumulation day on this hammer, crossover here, moved up, volatility. But these signals really give good insight into when something is happening. I use them all the time. In fact, it's my primary method now. So these are the ones that crossed over yesterday. Yesterday, the day before, number 2, because it's 0 or 1. So you can see these all crossed over yesterday. Now, how'd they do today? Well, here's one. It's another biotech. It's up 23.88%. This is another pharma up 8.15%. If I bring them up, you can see here's the 2-day window. Here's the signal yesterday, and here's the follow through today. Now, this is a much nicer chart. It's a tight chart. Look how tight it is compared to that other one. Accumulation days, VPA flags, a warning that there's something happening. Here's a crossover day, a nice move, cross back down, stopping volume, low volume test, confirmation of the test, went up through and pulled back. Stocks don't go straight up or straight down. Sometimes they go straight down. Let me take that back. But as a rule, they don't. Stocks move in waves, and you should expect that. Now, when you get a couple of down days, yeah, you may want to take it off and look for a re-entry. If you use a trailing stop, it'll get you out of these. But this is a good example. Now, let's say I'm interested in this list here. Once again, I'll show you this quickly. Copy symbols to clipboard, then just bring up Thinkorswim, click on watch list, edit watch list, import, paste symbols from clipboard, and I'm replacing the current ones. Okay, save it, and here we have our list. And then I can quickly look at the charts. Once again, go to that 78-minute. Look how strong this one was out of the gate. Had a slight pullback here, but the wick ended up midpoint. That means buyers came in to support it, and then it took off from there and finished the day really strongly. Like I said, you don't have to use 78-minute charts. You can use whatever time frame you want. You just set these up in Thinkorswim, and you can see I have various time frames here. And you can also use what are called tick charts if you want to. But some people say, well, HGSI is not real time. No, it's not real time, but it's close. And if you use it in conjunction with Thinkorswim, you have your trading platform, you have your real-time platform, everything's right here together. It really takes no effort to go between the two. Okay, let's move on. you know, the time goes so quickly when I'm doing these things. I already talked for 30 minutes. I just want to take you through some other things. Now, here are some other intraday scans. If I click on here, let's go back. I'm going to go into the major market components. I just want to look at some big stocks here. Let's look at the NASDAQ, or let's look at the S&P 100. No, there's fewer there. How about the S&P 500? Okay, the S&P 500, these stocks on this are coming up. Well, what happened? I didn't select that, did I? There we go. These stocks are coming up as the most active stocks. So anytime during the day, if you want to go into the major indexes or any index and see which are the most active, this will do it for you. Active up, active down, high relative volume negative, leaders up intraday on volume. To be a leader, you have to have the fan up. Tom, I don't know if the green dot ever rises on the TOS chart. Those VPA flags from the TOS, the VPA code from TOS is probably 10 years old. And, you know, I just got it and I don't know what the programmer put in there. Paul says it is. Okay. So, and that reminds me, I didn't really talk about that. The VPA, the TOS charts have this public domain VPA flags also. So I use those too. Primarily, I use the flags in HGSI for my prospecting, but they're mostly the same in Thinkorswim, which is beautiful. Okay, so what do we have here? Leaders up intraday on volume. To be a leader, the fan has to be in place. What do I mean by that? It means the 100 has to be above the 200, the 50 above the 100, excuse me, the 18 above the 50. So that fan is in place. Now this pulled back here, but it's a leader and it's up for the day. That's why it passed the screen. Let's see what else I have here. This is the fans up, and this is a leading stock that was up, profit taking at the end of the day. How about Cigna? Fan is up here, spread apart, gapped up, profit taking. It's tough to chase those gaps, isn't it? Okay, and then leaders down. Same thing, the fan has to be up. The reason I put this in here is because Gil likes to look for stocks that were former leaders that may be rolling over so he can look at the short side. Let's just look at, and this is an oil, Oxy. And you can see that this is a leader because here's the fan. 200, 150, the 18 has not, well, it did today, but as of yesterday, it was a leader. It crossed today. So this is what he is looking for, potential shorts. Here's an effort to fall. Here's an effort to fall. If he saw this, this would be a good short. Now he plays big bucks. He plays the big stocks. He's been doing this for, I don't know how many years now, probably 35. So, you know, he really knows what he's doing. But I put this in here. If any of you like to play the short side, and you can play options, you can play spreads, you can do whatever you want to do. But it's just in here for a reason to show which ones are breaking down. Okay, now I put some Voodoo scans in here. Somebody was asking for Voodoo scans, and I wrote Gil, and I said, what goes into your Voodoo scans? And he said they're just really simple. And he only uses them on his list. He doesn't look at the whole universe, and I don't have his groups, so I'm just going to use the S&P 100. Here is a Voodoo rally intraday. What's a Voodoo rally intraday? It means that the stock's going up, but the volume is below the 50-day moving average. You can see this column's red here, but the stock's going up. So Amazon's on top. Let's look at Nextera. Well, let's look at one where the intraday range is close to 100%. So it's going up, but if you look down here, the volume is below average. I'm going to drop down to one of my charts here, which really shows it clearly. Look at the volume here compared to the 20, 50, and 90-day. So this is a voodoo because it's up and the volume's down. What does it mean? It can mean a couple of things. It means there's just not a lack of interest, or it can also mean there's no supply. We don't have a no supply flag here, but this tells me that even though there is no volume, that these people, or I'm sorry, these traders, people trading this stock took it up to close at the high anyway, because there's a lack of supply. No, Marvin, you don't have to delete anything. Just install Gil's over what he has. It'll be fine. I'm glad you asked that question. Okay, so that's a voodoo rally. Here is a voodoo pullback. What's a voodoo pullback? It means that stocks are going down on less than average volume. Coke's at the top. Okay, here's the close. This is why it's down. Here's the close yesterday. Here's the close today. Here's a low volume test. It was going down. They came in to buy it late in the day. So this is a voodoo pullback day. What do you think of that? Same thing for Pepsi, pulling back. But you always want to look at where these stocks close in their daily range, because it'll tell you if there is support underneath. If these people or these traders, I keep saying these people, if traders are coming in to support these stocks if they want them. What does this tell you? It tells you lack of supply. Volume's low, closing in the upper part of the range. Now these down here, not so much, because they're closing in the lower part of the range. Let's look at US Bank Corp. Volume is lighter than normal, but it closed in the lower part of the range. So that means there's supply here, at least today. Okay? Any questions about the Voodoo scans? They're very simple. I put the end of day and the intraday. The intraday are more useful because you can actually see which stocks are going up and going down. Okay, so that's new. I wanted to go through these for you. By the way, back up here on this undercut and rally, these require a fan up, but you go down here, it says no fan up, so you can find stocks in here. Let me do the intraday. Find stocks in here where the fan is not in place. So let me bring this up, Qualcomm. And then let me drop down to this. That's the wrong one. The fan is not quite in place because the 200 is here. It's hard to see on this chart. The 200's here. Here's the 18. These would have to get above the 200 for the fan to be in place. That's why I built this scan, so we can find stocks like this. We don't necessarily, the pullback in entries work really well if you have a trending market and trending stocks, because they go from expansion. I'll just use this chart even though the fan's not in place, from expansion to contraction and then back to expansion. But I put these in here for Gil and for me and my files too, because I want to look for these stocks that are crossing over or potentially crossing over. You can see they weren't crossed over yesterday, but they crossed over today. Some of them, or if they didn't cross over, they're up for the day. And then these crossed over yesterday, but they're down. 2 out of 3 are down. This one crossed up yesterday, made a little move to the upside, but now it's getting a no demand. Why? Look down here at the volume, no demand. It's different than no supply because look where it closed in the lower part of the candle. See how important it is to look at the the individual candles also, because it really tells you a lot. Even though there were no accumulation flags here, and that's because the 3 is above the 6. These appear only when the 3 is below the 6. Up here, there's no need for them to, because the 3 is above the 6. But you can tell that these are, here's an accumulation day, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one on a low volume test, another one, and then kind of a shooting star here. You have to know your candles too, what they tell you. Okay. So I covered that. These are all of its older ones. I'm not going to go over those because time goes too quickly, but I do want to point out these stocks and groups moving up. These are from last night. This is a group that he always looks at. Now, it's not showing 100 because I'm in the S&P 100, and this is kind of cool. So if you want to know which of the stocks in any of these groups were going up in this smart group last night, let's go to the S&P 1500. There's 72 of them were in the S&P 1500, but how many of them were in the NASDAQ 100? Whoops, I got the wrong one. NASDAQ 100. 34 of them were in the stocks and groups moving up. And how many of those followed through today? Well, I just click on number 17 and sort on the raw combo. And these are the stocks that followed through yesterday. I followed through today from last night's build of the user smart groups. Let's look at this one. Look at this. Wow, earnings day. Earnings day, you can see that right here. But look at this. This is one of those, this would have been picked up in those scans I just showed you because the fan was not in place. But what do we have here? 2 accumulation days. We have a crossover day, and it really hasn't looked back. Now, I don't think many of us are going to buy a $700 stock. That's an institutional stock. But my point is that you get the crossovers on this chart. Okay, so I wanted to point that out to you. Now, let's spend some time down here. These are from, if you download if you are not a member of the Insider Club and you want some basic scans, download these, okay? And then you'll have these. And my daily prospecting scans are down here. So I gave you some of each for market analysis, ETF analysis, and so on. What I want to do though is get into the user smart groups. Now, when I got into this user smart groups, when Matt and George gave them to me, I went way overboard, of course, which I always do on this stuff. But now I'm starting to really weed them out and find what I consider the most useful. Now, when you install my files, if you install my files, this start a user smart group's going to be in there. You don't really need it because they're all duplicated down here. So you can easily get rid of it just by clicking up there and deleting this. And I'll go ahead and rebuild the user smart groups again to get rid of this. Now, what I'm primarily looking for, and this is what Gil looks for, this is all along his theme, as he's looking for low risk entries on trades. And that's what you should all be doing. Let's go back to this, because when you chase, you usually get your head cut off, don't you? So let's just go down here. I explained these box stocks last time. If I have time, I'll come back to them. But I have an instant watch list, end of day, and intraday. What these stocks do when you rebuild those smart groups with Thinkorswim running in the background, it's going to pull up a list of stocks for you that you can look at. Now, notice there's only 3 here. That's because my filter's on. It's blue here. If I click on my shift key and that, it'll get rid of that filter. And now I have 16 stocks. So these are momentum stocks that came up today. So if I click through to the warehouse views, and let me go to Gil's #1 scorecard, you can see that these were all up today. Shows you the volume, the range. I'm sorted on raw combo. And if I bring these up, you're going to find that these are momentum stocks that are moving, and you're going to find that most of them cross over. But I don't have to look at the chart to find that out. I just look down these columns and it tells me how old or how fresh these are. So this one, Guerin, was a 2-day, two days old, and then it followed through today. It's a cheap stock, but I think I just have $1 minimum on that. So anyway, this is how you can get a list of stocks that you can look at. And they're not all low risk trades, but by looking at these columns right here, you can tell how long ago the signal's fired. Let's look at Celsius. This fired 29 days ago. Clear back here. And it had a pocket pivot, and it had 2 VPA flags also. Up bar closing near the high and an effort to rise. Beautiful chart. Few shakeout days, nothing too serious. Didn't shake out enough for this histogram to go negative, though, did it? And that's what we're looking for. If you have the discipline and you can use the 3 and the 6, you can get a long ride on these stocks in a strong market. And the market really wasn't even strong over here, but this stock was doing very well. Okay, so that's one smart group that I like. Instant watch list, there's a whole variety of things here. These are pullback stocks. Let me close some of these down so I can see this better. Okay. Intraday, these pulled back. Let's click through, and they're up today. So you can see it's a pullback stock, and these are low risk entry. Doesn't mean they're going to go up, but they're low risk, and you can set up your sizing pretty easily. And if you have my spreadsheet, you can put them in there quickly and know how much you're going to risk, or you can use this little tool right here. I'm going to zoom in on this quickly, and I can, let's say I want to use this right here as my risk level, and right there, I'm only risking 2.70% on a, $66 stock. If I use the low point of this hammer right here, or this lower wick as my stop point, then these numbers would go in the spreadsheet. Why do I have to remove the filter, Paul? Those are the only ones that were coming up. Okay. What I want to do is see, these are pullback. Only 4 stocks appeared in that. So those are pullbacks. These are setting up after a pullback, 16 stocks. And this is the unconfirmed low pivot. These are unconfirmed, which means you have to see what they're doing intraday. This is intraday. They were unconfirmed low pivots. Let's look at AstraZeneca, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. Let's just use this chart here. The low pivot. Oh, that's a weekly chart. No wonder. I was going to say, where's my low pivot? Okay, here's your low pivot on this stock. This high is obviously much higher than this high, and this low is obviously much lower than this low. And so a confirmed low pivot would be taking this out, but that's way too far away. This would be a cheater low pivot buy right here if it takes out the high of the prior day. But this is your low pivot. What am I looking for? I'm looking for low risk trades. Let's look at some more of these. Here's your low pivot compared to this low, and this high compared to this high. And this would be a buy on the low pivot if you're just using the low pivot. But you want to put this into context. This is still, well, here's the 100, the 200, and the 50. So this stock has been in an uptrend, or flat anyway, but the fan is pretty much in place here. The group is going up. I use a spreadsheet after the market's open, Tom, because things change so much overnight. I do my prospecting intraday. I think you can spend an awful lot of time looking at the spreadsheet and so on. Yeah, you should have a list of stocks, but I like to see what's happening the next day. You know, if something gaps down, you're going to have to take that into account and so on. So I use it during the day. How about you? Is that what you do too? Okay, so those are instant watch lists. These are low pivot. There's a whole bunch of low pivots here with a VPA flag. Here's low pivots with the fan up. Let's look at some of these today. Shotgun approach. Okay, these are low pivots with the fan up. Any of these positive today? There's only one that really closed at the high of the day. That's AstraZeneca. We looked at that already. So these other low pivots, look at the range. I wouldn't spend a lot of time looking at that. Now this one has a bullish candle or a VPA flag. Let's go back here. Fan up, low pivot, VPA flag, or bullish candle. One or the other. These didn't, nothing really worked on these low pivot. It just means this one worked. It just means all these others in red. It just means that there was no buying coming in. So the pivot is still a low pivot. Excuse me, I need to take a drink. No, there's no log. Oh, Mark, when did you update the add-on? I changed it today. So if you didn't do it today, you don't have the latest. Okay. Okay, where was I here? Yeah, I did it a couple hours ago. I made some minor changes, but anyway, so here's a good example of a stock that's in an uptrend. Here's the low pivot compared, because it's lower than that, and this high is lower than the high from the prior day. And this would have been a buy today, a cheater buy. Didn't take out the high from the prior day, but it took out the high from today. So strongly trending stock, Harmonic Communications Equipment. Earnings are out. It's kind of a spinning top today, but you can see buyers came in to support it yesterday. The 3 is above the 6. How old is the signal? 9 days on both the VPOC and the 3 crossing the 6. Okay. Low volume tests, price up intraday. These I like. These scans I like, and I have the same thing for the box stocks. No, I don't. I thought I did. But I guess those are in my files. Anyway, these are low volume tests, and the intraday price is up. If I click on this, I can see that the price is up on all of these, and I'll just sort on raw combo. Let's just look at the first one here. This is from the prior day. There's a low volume test. There's a confirmation of that test yesterday. If either one of these or one other flag appears in this scan, it tells me that they're low volume tests. And if I run this intraday, it tells me that these are up for the day. Look down this column. Every one of these are up. And I know that every one of these had a low volume test. Now, if I sort by the intraday range, this is going to show me the strongest stocks, the ones that are closed. If they're high for the day, here's a low volume test. What do we have today? We have a confirmation of that test. 3 is above the 6. Signal is 12 days old. But what are these telling us? It means that these stocks are finding buyers, even at these levels, even though this signal is 12 days old. See how handy this can be? So when you get these lists, you know that you're looking at stocks that are showing this characteristic. Now, let me try something today. No, that won't work. I'm talking to myself. Okay, let's look at the other ones here. This is all of them. These require that a fan be up. So this is a much shorter list. This doesn't look like the fan is up, but it is, or it wouldn't be showing through here. Here's your low volume test, confirmation of that test today. You can see the fan clearly here, low volume test, confirmation. These are some low risk opportunities. That's all I'm pointing out. This is what Gil likes to find. Low risk, moving up. Low risk, still got a lot of overhead over here. And let's see, what else do I have here? Now this one is up 1% from the day. Now, the reason I did this is that on a real hard down day, you're going to find a bunch of stocks that are down. But if you run this early in the morning, you're going to find a bunch of negative stocks here. And what this does, it's going to find stocks that are coming off the bottom and showing a low volume test. So for example, yesterday, this is down 4% today, but here's your low volume test, and this is 1% above the low. That's why it's showing up here. Here's another one that's down slightly today. You can see it. When this reversed 1% off the low, it would have been showing up on this screen. So these smart groups provide all kinds of prospecting opportunities during the day. That's why I said this is a webinar that I really should be doing during the market hours, because we can take these scans and just quickly slap them in to Thinkorswim and then find the ones that look the best. And let me just do that. I want to do one more thing though. I put this in. These are what are known as shadow stocks. I think the American Association of Individual Investors named them that. I made up a filter. It's looking for stocks that are between $1 and $30 that have earnings growth. A lot of people just want to play these stocks. So here they are right here. Now, if I transfer them to this view, I can see which ones are up today and which ones are down today. Now I can do this. If I just want the ones that are up today, I can just go down here. There's 130 of them. I can make a group. I'll just call this up. And what are there? 130 of them. I don't need an index for this. And then I can go in and I can apply some of these other scans. For example, let's go back up and go up to Gil's, and I'm going to use other intraday scans, and I can click on the most active up. So I know these are between $1 and $30, and I'm looking for the most active scans, and here they are. You can see they're all up today, and I sort on the raw combo. There you go, $14 stock that is showing earnings growth. Earnings are negative, but the earnings growth is positive. Okay, David, I went too fast for you, didn't I? All right. Let's go back in here to the smart group. And I'll take the filter off. There's all 100 of them here. All I did was sort for green I was using the scorecard view. You can use any view you want to. Let's say you want, I'm going to do a different view here just to show you something. Undercut and rally. Let's see the ones that were, there are only 2 of them, though. That isn't what I want. Forget that. So here's the group. Let me go back into the scorecard views. Close some of these up so I don't get too confused. I'm still confused right here. Okay, there are 333 stocks in here. I don't want to look at the ones that are down for the day. I only want to look at the ones that are up. So what do, I scroll down here. First of all, I sort on intraday percentage price change. I scroll down here, and I could even take these that are flat, but I don't want them. And then you have 2 options. There's 130. You can make, I always use alternate G, but you can make the group from the list. And then you just put in the number of stocks. And I'll call this one shadow. Shadow up. And then you can see it cuts it down to 130 stocks. And then you can go in and do your prospecting with anything else. Let's see if any of these were in the stocks and groups moving up under $15 yesterday. Yes, they were. And you can see that they're all up today, but I already know that because I am only looking for the stocks that were up. And then you can do your prospecting here. But let's go back to this. I want to see where the groups are, as usual. Biotechs, which you would expect for stocks in this price range. Specialty pharma, banks, and so on. But let's say this is the list that I want to look at. No, it's a long list. I can still copy these signals to the clipboard, and I can go into Thinkorswim even though the market's closed. Click on this. I can edit the watch list. I can import, paste. I'm going to replace, save. And here we have all of those stocks. Now, if you see something like this with an NA, that means the HGSI symbol and the symbol for Thinkorswim are different. But you can see the VPA flags in here. This is my 78-minute chart. Here's what happened coming out of the gate. And then in this one, a rejection. But then this one, here's a test, low volume test, and it closed up as a $3.99 stock. Where is it as far as the context? The context is the fan is up. We also have earnings here. This is why I bring them in to Thinkorswim, because I can see immediately if I've got earnings coming up. So this is a nice setup, but I really would have to be wary of a stock whose earnings are coming out in a couple of days. So let's look at another one. Now this one, here's the context. Clearly in a downtrend with some buying, not interested. Now this one looks like it's forming a flag. Earnings are out, but it's been rejected these 2 days here, but this day it closed near the high of the day. What's this? It's a 200-day exponential moving average resistance there, and there's resistance across here. If you look at this, you can see there's resistance here. So it's got to get through that. But what happened here? 7% estimate, 8 cents, came in at 8 cents. So it's got earnings, positive. But I can quickly go through these. I can see when the earnings are out. This is a nice setup here on a $6 stock. ASE, let's see how it did during the day. Look, buyers came in. There were some shakeouts early on these cheap stocks. That happens a lot. And then it solidified and had a nice run into the close. You can see how well HGSI and Thinkorswim work together. Here's a weekly chart. If you want to see all of them together, you just restore the cells. And then I usually use a much larger monitor, but this way I can get a feel for what's going on. Here's a 6-month chart. You can see the huge gap down, which is really not visible with those moving averages. But if I want to maximize the cell, I can see that must have been an earnings support, and then just go and put it in context with the moving averages and then see how it did intraday. Okay. Well, I've gone an hour and 8 minutes. I think I'll shut it off. I covered most of what I wanted to cover. I just want you to realize that most of these smart groups down here are looking for low risk stocks. Oh, I want to show you one more thing. I went over this briefly last time. These are the major market components. I'm not going to go over those again, but I do want to look at this stocks and groups moving up and down. 500,000 K volume stocks that are up $5 and up. You just click through to this. These are trading at least 500,000. And where was the strength today? Biotech, specialty pharma, just like we're seeing renewable energy equipment, healthcare services, and so on. Let's run this list over. But before I do that, I want to look here and see which of these. See how I sorted on that? These I know have not crossed over, but they're up to date. So let's go here. Here's one that's up 21% today, but it hadn't crossed over. So I'll bring the chart up. Now, earnings came out today on this. And here's 2 pocket pivots. There's a VPA flag, and the earnings came out. And what's the context? It's in a downtrend, but there's some relatively heavy buying here. So these are things that you might want to look at tomorrow to see if they follow through. Now, I could save this group if I wanted to, because this is a 1-day group. Going to do an alternate G. Goes under my user groups. I'll just call this up. What's the date today? August 4th. Now, I've got this for tomorrow. Why do I want to do this? I want to see if any of these are following through tomorrow. So I can just come and find this group right here tomorrow. But this is a powerful thing. So now I have this group right here, and I can go in and I can apply any other scan on these. So I'm going to go, let's take a good look at Gil's Voodoo rally. So these are moving up on light volume. Let's go under the other intraday scans and look at the most active. So these stocks here are the most active stocks out of this list of 100 stocks that I created. As you can see, you can do anything you want to with this program as far as prospecting. Now, a lot of people like to look at a bunch of other stuff, go through all the fundamentals and so on. The fundamentals are in here. I didn't show you, let me bring this back up here. And then I'm going to end this, I promise. Come on. I wanted to show you this slide here. A few strengths of HGSI Investor. Top-down analysis, end of day and intraday. You can make user groups like I've been showing you. Fundamental and technical analysis, volume price analysis. Thank you, George. Smart groups, pre-configured and user smart groups. I've been showing you that. The data is from Zach's and bar chart. We use GAAP earnings. We don't use any phony earnings or somebody guesses and you get a corporate announcement and say, oh, these are really our earnings. These are generally accepted accounting principles. Intraday data from Thinkorswim or financial modeling prep for overseas customers. Customizable toolbox or various investment styles. I've been showing you Gil's, I've been showing you mine. And that's what I mean by that. You can do anything you want with this. And it's good stuff. It's a great program. And tell your friends about it. I cover so much here, I may confuse you, but just use one or two of these smart groups and see what happens during the day. Look at the chart, look at the individual, scans. I mean, bars. What are they telling you? What's this bar telling me here on Celldex? Let's make this full screen. Let's get rid of this. By the way, here are your GAAP earnings up here. All this is in here. What's this telling us? I just grabbed this chart, but I want to point out, it's telling us that the fan is not quite up because the 200 is here, but this stock, the group is flat, went down, group's moving back up now. If I put an arrow on here, it went from expansion to the downside to expansion to the upside. The crossover happened right here, and it's going to contraction. The crossover went down, went positive again right here. After this, came down and tested the 100, an inside day inside this one. So this tells you that buyers are interested. And then there was a spinning top, uncertainty, and then it moved up. Is this another earnings day? 8-4, this was an earnings day. Uncertainty, and then the pop today. Well, Mark, you can see the power of this program. It's unbelievable. You don't need any other programs other than HGSI and Thinkorswim. If you do, you're wasting your money, in my opinion. But that's just me. Of course, I'm prejudiced. I've been working with this program for 20 years plus. Okay, anything else? Most people stuck around, a few didn't. 200 signed up, 50 showed up. That's about standard, but I'll get this video out so you can review it.